Oh my god. All right. Let's try this again. To avoid legal snakes. Why does it tell you that every time? I'm not filming any children.
Yeah. What do you think we're doing on it? I pay my taxes.
Yeah, we're consenting adults, I promise.
Welcome to episode 2 of the PC report.
Yeah. PC report we've renamed. We're like Prince with a show formerly known as Two Bored Guys, which is now the PC report because we found out that someone else already has that channel. And
someone else had the right idea to beat us to it, but you know, we're back with a bang. So
exactly, they're German. They are German. We're German, so I feel like there's an affinity there. But we don't understand. We don't want to get into a pissing contest about who's called what and when. So we backed out of that one with a PC report now. We're rolling with it. Do not review computers. This is important to understand. We'll just get into this.
Jump right into the
news everywhere.
We thought after the storming of the Capitol, things would calm down a little bit, but turns out, you know, the madness continues.
For our first subject of the day, we're going to talk about the strange phenomenon that is Keir Starmer, Labour leader
of the opposition,
and the Labour Party in general. And this headline, this is just sort of an entry point for us to discuss more broadly. But obviously, the big news is he went on TV and with Andrew Marr, I think it was, and Sunday morning, yeah, and basically he rolled back on most of what he'd been saying for the last sort of 4 or 5 years, even, you know, but definitely when he was running for leader just last year, he's now completely.
And now, as you said, just rode back on them, and it's like, why?
Yeah. So he's basically he's taking a massive U-turn, and so the one of the big headlines that came out of this was Starmer accepting end of EU free movement. So if Labour were to come into power, they wouldn't look to negotiate a deal. They'd stick with this hard Brexit, which is causing so much disaster. Which, as leader of the opposition, is an insane position to take. You've already voted for this terrible deal, and every day we're getting new evidence of just how awful it is. And now he's saying, nah, we won't renegotiate it. It's too much like hard work. So it's an insane position for an opposition party to be taking.
It's an untenable position because you're not actually opposing anything. You're just kind of the Tories light, you know. You don't have any value. You know, he just contradicted all the values he said he has. Because at this point, it's like, did you ever believe these things? I don't know, maybe. But you know, it certainly seems like it's the old classic. You know, these are my values, and if you don't like them, I have others. You know, what does he stand for after, what is it now, 9, 10, well, bloody hell, 10 months now almost, and we still don't really know who he is or what he stands for. And you know, like or lump Jeremy Corbyn, you knew, you know, what that man believed or whatever. He had positions on things both internationally and domestically. Whereas with Keir Starmer, he just it kind of feels like he just goes with the way he perceives the winds blowing, or you know, and he never wants to come down too much in support of anything because he's so terrified of you know, attack from anything. But it's like, dude, if you don't stand for something, you know, you don't stand for anything. And it's well at this point, because it's been a while now. He's not just been in the job for a little bit. You know, we're getting on for a year now, and we still don't know who the guy is.
If you were to ask me today, what does Labour stand for?
I don't know. What are their policies? I don't know.
I've got no idea. Basically, their policies are, we're gonna support the Conservatives on everything because we're terrified of everyone, but we're gonna pretend our offer is gonna be, well, if we were in power, we just do it slightly more competently and with less corruption. That's not a selling point. You've got to stand for your values.
Or we'd be 24 hours earlier with the latest lockdown. You know, we'd have shut schools 24 hours earlier. And it's like, you know, you're not even the diet version of, you know, you're not even the Diet Coke of the Tories. You're just like, well, we would have done something quite similar, but we would have been better about it. And it's like, well, it's just so vague, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is the problem. My real concern for Labour is that what happens now with Labour is what has happened to the Democratic Party in America. That the Republicans used to be a centre-right party, roughly, and they've, over the last, you know, couple of decades, you can debate when it started, how it shifted, that sort of thing, but and then obviously very recently, much more extremely, they've been shifting further and further to the right.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Democrats did is, instead of saying, okay, we're going to be the alternative on the left that had us the House and the Senate for like 3 decades, that they controlled the House and the Senate, and they were like, no, we don't like that strategy. We're not going to be for the everyman and the everywoman. We're going to move to the right.
Mm.
And that's what they've been doing. So now the US is going through a weird political experiment where you've got a far right party
And the right party.
and a right party. That's insane. And what worries me is that Labour's going to do the same.
Mm. And they're gonna chase after a certain sliver of voters who aren't really gonna vote for them anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
No,
you're gonna
exactly.
leave behind your traditional, the people who have been voting, for Labour. It's predominantly younger people, ethnic minority people, people in metropolitan areas, the North working class areas. But that's been a bit of a toss up at the moment. But by trying to hunt those people in the spectrum between the centre right and the far right, by going after them, you often think you might leave a couple of people behind, and you can't take anyone for granted. If there's anything the last election has showed us, is that you can't take interest groups and sections of society for granted. Otherwise, we'll vote for someone else.
And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, where else are these left-leaning voters going to go? There's no one else, and that's so dangerous, because there are other places to go.
Labour leader rules out extension renegotiation if party wins next election, and it's like, why are you tying yourself into these? Like we were saying about, why are you chasing a certain subset of voters? Because I think even for people who voted Brexit, I remember seeing a poll when it first came out, and it was 33% of them, of Brexit voters on average, their first primary focus was immigration, right?
Yeah.
And 50% was like sovereignty, where's power, who's in charge. Okay, so you're even though Brexit, was a vote for kind of anti-immigration, you can't kind of hide from that.
Yeah.
Wasn't even within that vote, immigration was only the second biggest factor within it. So like, you're fighting a subsection of a subsection, and in a post-coronavirus world, I'm not sure how much, if immigration is going to be kind of the thing that's blamed at this point.
It doesn't resonate. If you look at some of the YouGov polls they've been doing, immigration's falling off the fucking map. It's not an issue anymore. People just aren't interested.
Yeah.
So make the case. Make the case. You're the opposition. You're ceding the field without even fighting. It's ridiculous. So anyway, there's some interesting takes going around on this. So Tom MacArthur had an interesting one, which is obviously, Labour is abandoning the internationalist credentials that Labour has always had, really, which is crazy. Like he points out, they backed hard Brexit, which they didn't need to do. They didn't need to do it, and they did it anyway. And now they're basically parroting the Tories' rhetoric on, well, freedom of movement, don't need that. It doesn't benefit us anyway. It benefits us massively, and we could renegotiate that, but we're just not going to. And we're just ceding ground. We're not resisting anything. We're not even trying to make the case. We're just saying, yeah, we're taking that for granted. We're abandoning that. It's like
these were values that he stood on when it came for the leadership election, and it's just been a total 180. Let's not forget that he was the person looking for pushing a second referendum at the Labour Party conference and everything.
Yeah.
And he's more Brexit than Jeremy Corbyn ever was. He's
exactly.
gone from being more Remain to more Brexit than Jeremy Corbyn ever was, and it's just
exactly.
I don't know if this is a vote winner, bro. I really don't know, man.
I don't think it is, and that brings us to the second point with what John Worth has said here. He's I think he's political editor for the Bild in Germany, and he said What's the strategy? What is the strategy? So if you're going all in for this pro-Brexit red wall voter, who I don't really think it exists, and you sort of play footsie with nationalism, basically, is what you're doing, right? And your one selling point is, oh, well, we're basically going to be the Tories, but we're going to be more competent, and you're not going to be quite as embarrassed by your government. It's not going to work. Like John Worth says, you will fail, because what's going to happen is, yeah, you might win some of that red wall, but you're not actually making a very strong alternative offer. So you probably won't win as many as if you actually made an honest alternative offer to say, no, this is the vision we have for the country. And the other problem you're going to have is your left wing block of voters that you need are going to go, fuck you. Why would we stay when you're basically offering us Tory light? We'll go vote for a different party, and they will.
So and they will. That's the thing, that you cannot. Scotland and the North is anything to go by. You can't take vote bases for granted.
Yeah, you can't, and they will go. And you know, it's a ridiculous strategy. And just like we were saying a little while ago, what does Keir Starmer stand for?
No, no.
The last tweet here nails it. It feels like Keir Starmer is sort of in a beta mode for a new kind of politics. The politics of not. He's not Corbyn. He's not Johnson. He's not really even himself anymore, because he's not. Because we know the things he's on record for, and he's saying all the opposite things now. That's not going to win you votes, because people go, you're disingenuous. You don't stand for anything. You're not authentic.
That doesn't inspire confidence in anything you say, you know. And then also, I think a point going back to the John Worth tweet. Also, the Lib Dems, you know, they're not going to go into a coalition with Labour. They're going to, if given the parliamentary arithmetic, they are much more likely to go into a coalition with Conservatives than they are Labour or any of the other parties.
So this is the electoral sort of map and calculus from the 2019 election. This really highlights the sort of depth of Labour's issue here. Where do they go? How do you thread the needle here? Because you've got to be very, very careful. Scotland's gone. You're not getting Scotland back. Scotland is SNP central. You're not getting Scotland back. I live in Scotland. I'm not voting Labour. I'm not voting Labour. I would rather nail my testicles with it to my thigh than vote Labour at this point. I'm not going to do that, because they're a mess. Scottish Labour's even more of a mess. Scotland's gone. You're losing Wales.
I was about to highlight that. One of the big things about Wales, look, Anglesey, you know, Wrexham, Pembrokeshire, although Pembrokeshire is often a bit more of a toss-up than the traditional, but even still, it wasn't always like that. No. And then, you know, even some of the Valleys constituencies, you know, near Cardiff, near Swansea, they flipped, and it's like, you know, you're bleeding votes, man. You're bleeding votes, and and I don't see this kind of politics of not really standing for anything, of just being, oh well, I'm anti this. Well, look, I'm better. Look how crap that is. You know, it didn't. You know, I think a good a parallel might be, you know, Hillary Clinton, how she was just like, well, look, I'm not bloody Donald Trump. You know, it's going to go down the same well. You don't inspire confidence by being anti anything. You know, you inspire confidence by having values, having a vision for the future, and, you know, standing up for those values, instead of just being like, well, I'm anti that, but also he's not really even anti Boris Johnson, because he can't agree with everything Boris Johnson says. So you're not even that, you know. You just air. It's just nothing.
So Walmart, what's Walmart doing? Oh, Walmart. So this wasn't actually something we were planning to talk about this week, but watching the NFL playoffs on Sunday, we saw a very interesting ad, which we weren't able to find on YouTube, mainly because they're embarrassed that it's even a thing. But essentially, it was a video by Walmart saying, "Look how great we are. We give lots of food to food banks in America, and we feed the hungry. We look after the people in need." And we just thought that was so ironic that we had to talk about it. So I found this headline: Walmart donating 12 million to feed the hungry. Okay, brilliant. So what is Walmart? For those of you that don't know, Walmart is essentially an everything store. It's a massive warehouse-style supermarket in America. They also own Asda over in the UK, that sort of thing. They own stores all over or brands rather, are all over the world.
As a group, I think they're the largest retailers in the world, like as a
Yeah.
conglomerate or something like that. It's or at least in North America, it's something. They're a huge corporation, and as we were going to say, they sweep into towns and everything, destroy the high streets because they are an everything store. They can undercut prices. They can but paying worse salaries. So in the process of destroying the high street and destroying independent businesses, they replace them with all these relatively low paying
Very
jobs.
low paying.
And then after destroying the community and independent businesses, then they, after the fact, then have then donate to the probably a lot of the same people who have been economically disadvantaged through their business practices.
No, so there's a really good book that goes into this actually, which I'll link in the description. But essentially, Walmart has destroyed Middle America. So you've got towns across America that are their own economies essentially. They've got their grocery store, their butchers, the bicycle shop, hardware store, all these things. People earning a decent living, supplying their local community, paying taxes, right? So that's an ecosystem. Then essentially Walmart comes in and like Anton said, it undercuts everything. It offers everything. It ships it in cheap from abroad. It recruits people, pays them minimum wage, starvation wage is nothing. You can't even live on what they pay you.
Yeah, a scarily large percentage of Walmart employees are on food stamps.
Yeah.
And I remember reading an article at some point where it was like, in getting hired by Walmart, they actually show you how to apply for food stamps.
Yeah.
And it's
exactly.
like, it just demonstrates.
And this is the thing. You then spend those, and this is a point I'm going to make in a minute about the circular nature of this. So you're not paid enough by Walmart, so you're on food stamps, and then where do you spend those food stamps? In Walmart. You then give your food stamps because you're not earning enough to buy food. You then take taxpayer money because the private business, which we idolize, doesn't pay their staff enough to live. You then get food stamps, which you then pay to Walmart that profits off of that. So this is the thing. They've destroyed the local economy of an area. Everyone's reliant on Walmart. Wages are rock bottom. They're terrible. People can't earn enough to live there. You've got mass unemployment anyway. People are on food stamps, but they spend them at Walmart. And this is the thing. You just end up, it's just an octopus. It just sucks in everything. And then at the same time, like you mentioned, guess what? They're not even paying taxes. So I found countless headlines like this, but this is obviously just one of them. Yeah. Walmart dodging taxes. So in this case, 2.6 billion through creating fictitious Chinese entities. They say, "Oh, we're not a US company. This section of our business is based in China, so we don't pay US taxes." So do you see what they're doing here? And I think this is very important for people to understand. They're exploiting a community. They asset strip it essentially. So that's the only thing left. Then they don't pay their taxes, which would be for the benefit of all of society. So in this case, they didn't pay 2.6 billion, but then they get positive press because they have given 12 million, which if you think of percentage of 2.6 billion is nothing. So they then feed the hungry that they helped create by donating as charity for a pittance of the tax they should have paid. And this is how capitalism works. You get the very, very rich asset stripping, not paying tax, and then saying, "Oh, look how magnanimous I am because I'm giving charity, which is a fraction of what I actually owe in taxes." And this is the problem. This is the problem with this system.
And then demanding gratitude for giving scraps of what they're avoiding is
even more, airing adverts on national TV, bragging about it. That's how insane this is. It's just ridiculous.
So then people watch it, be like, "Oh, they're good guys," unaware that they are the wrecking ball of local communities and local business and higher paying jobs, and mom and pop stores. I know that gets bandied about a lot, but
it's a real thing though, isn't it? It's a real thing.
All the small business that Republicans and Democrats, they all love to big up when it comes to election time, because of our small independent business. these are wrecking balls destroying communities of small businesses. So
Yeah, and yeah, like you say, it is Republicans and Democrats. Guess who sits on the board of Walmart? Hillary Clinton. So, all right, yeah. She fought for the people, though. Yeah.
she stands up for your average, for the workers.
Don't waste my time. Yeah,
Oh,
fucking Hillary Clinton. There's a whole conversation to have there. But this is the thing. So the country gets assets stripped. People's standard of living craters. Local communities are destroyed. Yeah. But big corporations get to dodge tax and then feel good about themselves by giving a fraction of what they owe in charity. So transitioning to our next subject, which is very similar to this, it's happening in the UK, but in our own slightly sort of own flavour.
yeah, in our little Dickensian way.
So this fun photo here is. So let's summarise this quickly. So this photo, if you were to guess what it was, you'd say this is something very, very odd and probably should not be involving children. But essentially, this is what is given to children requiring free school meals because they are so poor they can't afford food, because we have 4 million people or 4 million children in the UK that live in the technical definition of poverty. So that's why we need this in the first place. And this is what a private company who has been contracted to supply food to children has given to children for a week. This is food for a week, right? As you can see, we have a potato, we have a quarter of an onion, we have half a
bell pepper.
A quarter of a carrot, a tomato, half a tomato, a baggie of tuna, a baggie of maybe pasta, some cornflakes or some grated cheese,
I think that's great.
biscuits. What do you even do? And I just can't get over the potato. It's just like, yeah, there you go. Put that in a sandwich. There's no bread. There's no. Unbelievable.
Come on, you've got a potato. And the thing which blows my mind is the cheese and the bloody tunas in money bags, which aren't, what?
Not sanitary.
It's just say you don't care. Like that's a third of a carrot, and then half a tomato. You realize how quickly tomatoes go off when you cut them in half.
Yeah.
Unless you eat that on the spot, that's going off.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, like, and Chartwell's, I think, was the company who did this.
Yeah.
Made a profit of 1 million last year, and this is supposed to last a kid for 5 days. Good luck trying to get enough calories, let alone you can't like, where's the protein apart from the tuna? Where's I mean, I guess cheese and tuna, but even then,
it's nothing. A kid, anyway. But essentially, the thing we want to talk about is the business model behind this. So the justification for places like Chartwell's to be giving out these food hampers, right, was that apparently poor parents can't be trusted to buy food for their kids. So back in the good old days, we used to give people who needed social assistance cash and say, here, this is some money for food for your kids. And because we're a crazy right-wing country for the most part, there were a minority of cases where maybe that money wasn't spent directly on the kids. So the right-wing media went, oh, this is ridiculous. They're spending all their money on crack whores and drugs and,
cigarettes
and booze. And they're not looking after their kids. Okay. So then what happened? We said, okay, that's fine. We won't give them cash. We're going to degrade them. We're going to treat them like kids. We're going to say, no, well, you can't be trusted with money. You're not a participant in this society. So we're going to give you food vouchers. So we gave them food vouchers, right? And the right wing couldn't even trust them with that. They said, no, it's still ridiculous. They're going to trade it for prostitutes because prostitutes accept food vouchers and drug dealers accept food vouchers. So they said, no, we can't even give them food vouchers because that's too humane. We're treating them like people with agency, So we said, no, we're gonna, and this is where privatization comes in. Chartwell's is owned by a Tory donor. Oh, convenient that. So they said, all right, we're going to give you 30 quid per child for the week. And we're going to get Chartwell's to procure that food and then give that to the parents of the kids, taking all the money element out of it. Fine, fair enough. If those kids were actually getting £30 worth of food, that would be great, but that doesn't end up being the case, does it? what you see here, and there was someone who did the math on this, what was happening is Chartwell's was taking the 30 quid. They were spending between 4 and 5 quid on food, giving that to the kids, and assumedly pocketing the extra 25 quid. Because that's privatization and capitalism, baby. That's how it works.
And what can be more rock bottom than taking money and food away from hungry kids? I mean, Jesus Christ, that you don't get any lower than that, for crying out loud. And also, is the Tory Party all about individual freedoms, individual personal agency, personal responsibility?
Yeah.
You trust these people to buy their own groceries. Surely the mother of her kids knows better than the kids. Better than Chartwell's about what her family wants or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why why we treat people like this. It's just really quite shocking.
It's unbelievable. Well, it's the logical endpoint of where we've ended up as a country, which is that we basically view people who, through the social conditions and economic conditions we created, who are now on their knees, and we're going to say, nah, we're not going to treat you like human beings. We're going to give you a coin baggie full of tuna, and you can go fuck off. That's essentially what happened.
And you know what's absolutely mental? So all throughout my when I was a student, I used to spend about 20 up to 25 pounds a week in Lidl, yeah, and I would get enough for me to eat well all week. And I'm buying things like wine and continental cheeses and stuff, and it would I would never go over 25 quid. It was always like 20, 22 pounds. You give these families £30 food vouchers, or £30 in the top of their universal credit, because let's not forget, all these kids that are receiving these food parcels have either one parent or both parents on universal credit. So they're people who are struggling. So why don't we top up their in food vouchers or money, and you can buy a hell of a lot more food, man, than this. It's just it's not even close to being the £30 figure. And the amount of pictures on Twitter and in the news and whatever, it's just a joke, because it's not even close to being that figure that you're supposed to be. And it's kids, man. What is worse than literally not feeding kids properly?
Yeah. You're not letting
when people are on furlough, when even if one of the parents does have a job, maybe they're getting 60 to 80% of their wages, but paying 100% of their rent still, I don't know.
It's just disgusting. Yeah, the policy is we're just going to starve children because we can. That's the policy. That's all it is, And this
stock price goes up.
These photos here, this is an illustration. So on the left, you've got a food, I guess parcel you could call it, but it's basically a table of food.
Whatever.
It's a lot of food, and this is what Finland supplies for a school child for a week. Seems reasonable to me. That seems a lot more like it. And then on the right, we've got what the UK government thinks is acceptable for a school child for the week in their minds, which is just insane. And I still can't get over the fact that it's one tomato and like it's just a potato, 2 potatoes, 2 carrots,
the
2
last
bananas.
One where it was like a quarter onion. Look how many onions are in that sack. Look how many potatoes are in those bags. They've got milk, they've got eggs, they've got beans, they've got oven food. They've got the full dietary table with all the food groups. Whereas on these ones, it's just embarrassing, because what meals can you really make from it? You're going to have to go out. You can't, if that is your budget. If and there is no wiggle room. You've got that 30 quid. What meals can you make if you really can't make anything out of that? I mean,
you can't.
A baked potato, but then what do you have with the pasta? I mean, you chop up the carrot. What meals can you make from that? And that's assuming a kid every single day for lunch wants to eat cheese on toast, which I mean, I love cheese on toast, but a bit of diversity, for crying out loud, these kids deserve, respect and deserve our empathy, because we are in the middle of a pandemic and an economic depression, which isn't these kids' fault, man. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And regardless of that, even if we weren't in a pandemic, if kids are hungry, they should be fed. And this is the thing; it's very simple. It's very simple. On the left, you've got someone who's making decisions based on children's needs, And on the right, you've got a company making decisions based on their bottom line and how much they can exploit the situation for their
Profiteering.
financial gain. And that's the long and the short of it. Left, good policy. Right, rampant privatization. And that's that. On to further humiliating UK government behaviour. So obviously the UK last month was negotiating our post-Brexit deal with the EU, which was super exciting. If you didn't know, the UK has a very vibrant music industry, and our musicians, believe it or not, liked to go to Europe to tour to make money, and also to test their tours before they went further afield, because it was very cheap to go to Europe. You could do it quite inexpensively. A lot of up and coming musicians did it to get their careers going, etc., etc., etc. It was really cool. And European musicians would come here. The music scene was awesome. I enjoy metal. It was great to see a lot of European metal artists coming over here and being able to see them, see them live, that sort of stuff. It was wicked. It was so good because basically within the EU, you had visa-free travel. There were no costs. You could also move your equipment around with no extra cost, no paperwork, that sort of thing. It was very, very easy to do. So in negotiations, the EU said, should we keep that? And the UK said, nah, fuck it. We don't want it. And so the EU said, well, okay, fine. Well, it seems odd. It's a win-win. It is literally the definition of a win-win.
There's no downside.
There's no downside. There's no downside. But anyway, so the UK government rejected it. And then it came out that they'd rejected it. But then the UK government denied they rejected it. They said, oh, no, we were looking for something better. So 4 days ago, this was the headline in the Scotsman. This was 4 days ago. UK government denies it rejected this offer. Well, guess what? Today, whoopsie, number 10 admits that it rejected the EU proposal. Perfect. Of course, because essentially what this is pure distilled ideology. They rejected it out of hand, not because it made sense or was politically expedient in any way. It was just ideology. Oh, we don't like the EU, so
visa free. No, we're all about visas.
Yeah, exactly. We this win-win situation we're going to walk away from because we want to be seen being tough. And actually, we're gonna kneecap our music industry. We talk about fish. The music industry is by an order of magnitude larger than fish, and they're screwing up fish incidentally right now, which we've spoken about in our previous video. But they've kneecapped the music industry on pure ideology. There's no logic, and then they lied about it. And then when they were caught red-handed, they said, "Oh yeah, no, we did do that thing, that horrible thing we denied, but we did do it. Sorry."
And it's bad because we don't realize how big of a cultural export our music industry is. You know what I mean? It's huge for this country. And this is a big industry which has been hit by coronavirus already.
So hard. They haven't been able to do anything for a year.
Horrendous. You know what I mean? And there's no light at the end of the tunnel really for them. It's how are up and coming bands, because going to be able to do, I follow a few kind of up and coming bands, and they gigging in France and things like that because cheap can get there. How are these bands going to be able to afford it?
They're not. The paperwork's absurd now. It's just not going to work. And this is the problem.
It's bad.
And there was no reason for this. There was no reason for this. This is what particularly galls me. Fine, Brexit was going to happen. We've all accepted that. Well, maybe some people haven't, but anyone who's acknowledging reality, it was going to happen. It didn't have to be like this. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to screw people just for the sake of screwing them, because that's what this is. And then it's so self-defeating in the end, because then you turn around and you say, oh, what, we're just going to let the UK cultural scene get hammered even more than it already has. And this was an easy win, and they'd rejected it out of hand. I'm not a musician, but it makes me angry as someone who enjoys music to see people I like, bands I like, people I respect being screwed by a government who literally doesn't understand what culture is apparently, or what value it has to the UK, and that makes me incredibly sad.
No, incredibly, because it is such a big industry, and we forget it's not just the bands. It's lighting, set designers, all
sound
the
technicians, yeah, all
sound
that stuff.
technicians, everything, all the the whole festival scenes and all
Yeah,
that.
it's huge.
We do get hit by this, man.
No,
It
it's
it does have a ripple effect to a whole lot of under industries that benefit from these
yeah.
things.
And this is the thing, we'll leave it there. But I think we're going to see more of this coming out.
It's
It's been the fisheries, it's been the farming, it's now the music industry. It's just coming thick and fast. Every single day there's something new where it's just like, well, this is fucking garbage, and and it just depresses me because it's like, you know what, we deserve that. Even the people who said, yeah, I voted for Brexit, and I know it will make my kids unemployed, but it's worth it. Even those people deserve better, and that this is not
No, we do deserve better, man.
this is not what anyone
This is
deserves.
not what anyone wanted, what anyone voted for, was in this. This is just a complete own goal and a
Complete
whole industry getting sacrificed. Well, another industry getting sacrificed. So yeah.
another one. There's not going to be many left, mate, because the car industry is disappearing as well, and we'll talk about that probably next time. So yeah, Brexit is still shit. It's still ongoing, and it's going to be a lot more shit. Da, 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 da.
This
Right.
is a big one because for me and my brother, playing Star Wars games from I think we started off on Age of Empires and games like that, but Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, which was the Star Wars version of Age of Empires, right there, Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, we grew up on playing quality story driven as well, Star Wars games.
Exactly. So essentially, EA have lost their exclusivity deal, and I felt so good about it. I got in touch with our meme editor, and I said, give me something that expresses my joy and my freedom of seeing something that I love being released back into the wild where it belongs. So this was put together for us, and it's wonderful because this is good news. This is really good news. And yeah, essentially, EA will keep making Star Wars games, but the exclusive deal will end, and other game creators will have the opportunity to make Star Wars games. This is so important because we like to idealize capitalism and say, oh, it's so wonderful, competition, competition. Then these big companies sign exclusive deals and remove all the competition. Look at Madden. Look at
The free market of ideas and competing. There's no competition here, so they could get away with making shoddy games because where else are they gonna go? And
exactly.
it annoyed because it would be oh yeah, the graphics are unbelievable, but there's no content there.
No,
There's
just
no
like the movies.
there's no
Just like the
story.
movies.
Just like the movies. Nice to look at. Well, no, just like the sequel trilogy. We're huge fans of everything else. The sequel trilogy, amazing. Just a high budget, cutting edge technology, CGI, all of that. Shit. So this really opens it up, and I will always go for more Star Wars games, more people looking at it, more people trying to be better than the other Star Wars games, because that's more likely going to give us something we want. And EA have a terrible record with just kind of all the franchises they get in their grasp. I mean,
they just destroy him. That's what happens. They destroy. They are franchise destroyers, is what happens with EA. And because they sign exclusivity deals, it's the same thing. So, oh, well, where else are you going to go? You have to go here for your game. So let's look at what EA did with that license, which they got in 2013. So these are the sort of 4 big games they made over this time. And the first one was they rebooted Battlefront. Now, Battlefront is a game that Anton and I grew up with. We love 1 and 2. 1 and 2, we love them both to our core. They are amazing games.
Countless hours, countless.
I may have lost most of my youth to these games, and to see when it was initially announced, I was like, oh, I know how bad EA is, but I was excited. And Battlefront came out, first one, and they were like, "Oh yeah, there's no campaign." It's like, what? No campaign in a Star Wars game? They're like, "Yeah, we didn't think you needed one." It was like, okay, so where's the
No
content?
Galactic Conquest, none
No,
of that.
none of that. No Galactic Conquest, no campaign, no story mode, no nothing, nothing. Just, oh well, basically,
No lore, no cool, nothing, no cutscenes, no, just no story. Sorry, like
it
you
was
said,
essentially it was an MMO platform to play online, to game in groups, battling each other in set piece scenes in Star Wars, which was cool, but it's not that's not a Star Wars game.
it's not what made the original ones so beloved.
No.
And it was like, okay, you can just make a Call of Duty, but in the skin of Star Wars, just like an
Yeah.
online kind of platform. But that isn't, but you're missing. That's just kind of the bonus on top of these games. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That is an aspect of it, but you're missing out on such a vast portion of what made the other games so good, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, like you were saying, Battlefront 2.
Yeah. So Star Wars Battlefront 1, massively unpopular because it was essentially just an online.
The reviews, I remember seeing the reviews
You know, it
because
was
I was
horrendous.
apprehensive. Yeah,
It was awful. It was awful. So anyway, they said, "Oh no, we've learned." So they made Battlefront 2, and they did make a campaign. It was about 4.5 hours long. It wasn't even that good. I played it. You're basically, it was cool. Their premise was cool. You're basically a special forces stormtrooper for the Empire,
cool. Which is nice.
which is awesome. That's a great concept.
Why do people stay within the Empire?
Yeah.
What do they believe? I want to see the inner workings, because we just see them as kind of just plastic bad guys or whatever. Quite
Yeah,
often.
exactly.
Cool.
It was an awesome concept, and I was like, this is really cool. And then basically over the course of about 3.5 minutes, you go from being a sort of fanatical special forces Empire person to the most die-hard rebel and trusted by all the rebels. It's just like, oh, all right, whatever.
Killing all the people you were fighting next to.
Yeah,
about 5
minutes to go.
And also 4 hours. That's laughable. You want?
Yeah, it was. It might have been 5.
Come on now.
It might have been 5, but it was a laughable amount. The plot wasn't that good. It looked awesome, but again, looking good doesn't mean anything. And then what happened, unfortunately, with this one is EA was like, "Oh well, we know we pissed them off with the first one, but you know what we're going to do with this one? We're going to stuff it to the gills with microtransactions. We are going to microtransaction the living shit out of this thing." And it got to the point actually where it was getting international attention. National governments were saying we need to regulate the gaming industry because of how irresponsible they're being with putting gambling and pay to win and exploitative mechanics, extracting hundreds or thousands of pounds from people in some cases, unknowingly or exploitatively. It was essentially, they created a gambling platform within Battlefront, and it was so bad, I think they ended up having to tear it out eventually because they couldn't justify keeping it, because they were opening themselves up to legal action, and they were opening themselves up to actually legislation at domestic government level.
And it's just like, just make a good game, and
people will pay for it.
Yeah, top dollar. But they couldn't do that. They gave us bare bones once again. Story mode, but small. And then putting all these other things in place that nobody wants. That isn't the essence of what it was all about. But anyway, then it was followed by, I think Jedi Order came out first.
Jedi Fallen Order, yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order, and then Squadrons, which are, better, steps in the right direction, more of what we want. I remember the Squadrons did get a lot of good reviews for their cool kind of, air battle scenes and all that. And it kind of went back to kind of that retro TIE fighter game that came out like in the 90s or something like that. So and we're like, yes, this is what people want. People want to play this kind of shit. And now they laud that, I think, in their press release, where they talked about their exclusive rights coming to, and they're like, we made quality games like Fallen Order, like Squadrons, and without putting in that these games were only ever made due to the public pressure they came under through Star Wars fans, just demolishing the 2 Battlefronts they came out with.
Yeah.
And so they had their they were pushed to make these games, and they talk about how they're some of their greatest achievements. It's like, no, you only came up with these games because of the abject failures of the last 2.
Yeah, no.
We can't forget that. We can't forget that it was due to the pressure of Star Wars fans that games like Squadrons and Jedi Fallen Order, which aren't amazing games,
No.
right?
But
Could be
they're
better.
good. They're
Good.
good.
They're good, and that is the benchmark of what we want.
This is the thing. EA shat the bed twice in a row, massively, then got massive backlash and was basically embarrassed into making some decent games, and then wanted to take credit for it. That's essentially what happened. They were like, "Oh, look how good we are doing that thing that you forced us to do because of our previous work being so awful," and that you can't take credit for that, and that's part of the reason why Disney removed the license, and it's good that they did, because
Yeah.
I don't like
Disney
Ubisoft. I don't like some of these
of
companies. I don't like Ubisoft. I don't like some of these companies, but at least it's competition, and we'll see what's made from it, and hopefully we, the fans, will benefit from that and actually get some good games that are worth playing, that aren't exploitative, that aren't just massive cash grabs using the Star Wars license. Because EA basically said, right, we're just going to cash in on Star Wars and exploit people, because we know if we slap Star Wars on it, there's a massive fan base out there that will buy it no matter what, because we're fans, and maybe it's our fault, but we are fans. We love Star Wars, and you're going to exploit us for it, and we're probably going to go along with it, but it's not on.
Exactly, it's not on, and I'm glad Disney's actually repealed that.
Yeah,
because
fair play
as
to
bad
Disney.
as Disney has been, they might have been listening to their fans a little bit for the first time in a few years.
Yeah.
But good decision, Disney. Kudos, well done.
Oh, it's time. It's time for the Sport Ball. The Sport Ball show. Oh, what happened last week?
Glorious weekend. Now that we've had Super Wildcard, I don't know
can I just talk about that quickly? Actually, I love the fact that they're sitting there and they're like, well, we've got the first round of the playoffs, and this year there's 2 extra games. And it's like, oh, so we can't just call it the wildcard round. They're like, no. We need to make it sound special. It's like, well, what do you think we should do? And it's like, well, we have the Super Bowl. Like, I like where you're thinking. So maybe
Control V.
Yeah, copy paste. We'll just take the Super and we'll make it Super Wildcard. Awesome. So you do realize there are other words, but anyway, that's just a small little thing that annoys me. But anyway, so what happened this week? We'll quickly review what happened this past week, and then we'll preview the upcoming divisional round games. So we'll go through this nice and tightly. We're going to probably do about 2 minutes per game. I'm gonna time us so we keep on schedule here.
The Bills Colts. Now this was a game that I predicted. I thought the Bills were going to absolutely, as good as the Colts are, I thought the Bills were going to demolish them. But the Bills let the Colts back in this game, and it had a lot to do with not being able to run the ball. I think Josh Allen ran for 54 yards. The next best person was in the teens. They had their running backs did nothing. They were under pressure by the Colts. And it just it seemed like they were trying to make Josh Allen do too much. He was supposed to pass. They had all these kind of quarterback kind of run designs as well. And it's like, dude, you don't want to injure your quarterback in the playoffs, for crying out loud. And they very almost came to the Colts were right in this game right till the very end. So it was closer than I thought, man.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot closer than I expected, and fair play to the Colts. They came to Buffalo, and Phillip Rivers looked actually pretty good, and their defense played well, and their offense did enough, and they just came up short in the end. It was a matter of, it could have gone either way, which is not a situation. I was expecting a blowout, and I got that wrong. I really did.
Let's not forget the Colts missed a field goal earlier in the game. So this game should have been tied up. So, well done to the Bills winning their first playoff game in like 22 years or something. So the Drew Bledsoe days, or even before that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was right till the end. And I thought the refereeing in this game was actually quite good. I didn't see a lot of stupid roughing the passer, stupid pass. It's stupid, I thought the refereeing was really quite good in this game throughout. They didn't take away from the game in any way. Where I sometimes get frustrated. The quarterbacks were taking licks.
It's good to see.
And the I can't stress enough, the Colts had a pretty good. Their run game was pretty good through this game, you know. So they're unlucky not to win it, and I was expecting a wider margin. I think last video I predicted 7 points or more win. Jesus Christ, man, this was a nail biter right down to the end. But anyway, moving on to the Seahawks and the Rams, and I predicted these people, the Rams. I mean,
you called it.
My upset.
You called it. It was your upset of the week, and you nailed it. You nailed it.
And come on, man, what can I say? You know, Nostradamus. That's it, not Houdini. And let's just say it is all down to the Rams' defense. They were all over Russell Wilson, man, all over. Now, a big part of this game, was it Metcalf, DJ Metcalf?
DK.
I think he was a big factor in them losing this game because the first couple drive, I think it was their first drive, got super frustrated and was like doing a hissy fit at the sideline, talking about how he wasn't getting the ball. I think, you know, the Rams saw that and thought, you know, they're going to try and force the ball to him because he's, you know, having a hissy fit on the sideline. Very next drive, quick try and force him the ball with a quick screenplay, and bang, what do you know? Pick six.
Yeah.
And I really hate it when wide receivers, by being such divas, by, you know, I need the ball. Metcalf, you actively lost in this game. Now, yes, you did score 2 touchdowns this game, but by trying to force you the ball, you know, you would have made that win margin 3 points instead of 7. You could have been going for field goals to tie up the game instead of having to score touchdowns and onside kicks and stuff. So, you know, you played well. You got like 90 some yards and 2 touchdowns. You lost them this game in a large way, and I hate it when wide receivers focus. It's a playoff game. Crying out loud, you know, it's the team, not yourself. And yeah,
no, I agree. I think we called it as a really sloppy game, and it was hard to watch at times. It was just like, oh god, this is with standard of football so poor. But it was, you know, it was fair play to the Rams. They made offensively, defensively, the Rams played lights out. You know, they shut down Russell Wilson, and that's hard to do. That is no mean feat. They did really well there.
Donald and Floyd or whatever his name is, they were just doing 4-man rushes and getting to Russell Wilson for kind of like on 4-man rushes. So all those other people are in the backfield covering people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to go with your point of it offensively being bad, at one point I think it was either in the second or third quarter, Russell Wilson was 5 for 12 passes, below 50%, and Goff was 4 for 12 at one. I think towards the end of the game, Robert Woods really stepped up. There was one drive where he had a vital 3rd down, and then he scored the touchdown. So well done, man. You didn't get the passing game going earlier, but Robert Woods towards the end of that game really did stand up. And they deserved this game. They deserved it, man.
Cam Akers in the run game for the Rams stepped up as well. So, you know, fair play to the Rams. They actually did deserve that game. So it was interesting to watch, even though it was quite messy. So yeah, next up was my call for lock of the week, and I was so close. It almost worked out perfectly for me. I flew too close to the sun. I got greedy. You know, Washington Buccaneers. In the end, the Buccaneers pulled it out. Brady looked really, really good. The Washington defense wasn't as disruptive as I was expecting them to be. Mike Evans had a day, as he always does, really. You know, the Buccaneers played well. However, Taylor Heineke for Washington were looking really good, and then he got injured, and I think obviously that ended it. But this was, for a while I was sitting there going, ooh, this could be on. This could happen. We could see Tom Brady knocked out the first round of the playoffs, which would have made me very happy.
Doing his Peyton Manning impression.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, fair play to the Buccaneers. They've not been to the playoffs in, I think, a decade. So I guess it's nice to see them do well in the playoffs, get that win and go on to the next round. So, you know, as much as maybe I would have liked to have seen Taylor Heineke be the hero because, you know, I'm a sucker for the underdog. At the end of the day, well done, Buccaneers. You did deserve it. The offense played well. The defense played well. They didn't have a huge amount to fight at the end of the day, and they did deserve that game.
But still within 8 points, you know, it is blowout we were all expecting. So well done to Heineke. I think he's probably got himself a backup job at least next
For the
year.
next 10 years, mate.
When
He's a
he was
backup for the next
probably
10
on nobody's radar, because let's not forget, he's not their starting quarterback. He wasn't playing even for that team not very long ago.
He was their backup of their backup of their backup, man. He's
Yeah, he
like,
was on the practice squad or something.
yeah,
And let's not forget, we have seen in recent years, backups in playoff games when the quarterback's injured, just getting thrown to the wolves. This guy, didn't, and he, well done, dude.
he played well. So fair play to him. That man's going to make himself some millions over the next 10 years as a backup. He's not going to go away. So that was the Saturday games. Sunday games. First game was Titans Ravens, which I did enjoy, but ended up it was not the game I think either of us expected it to be.
We were expecting more points, I think,
Yeah.
100%. And I remember I said, Derrick Henry, once he gets going, he's going to control the game. And for all the reasons that I thought the Titans were going to control the game, the Ravens controlled the game.
Yeah.
And good running the ball effectively with the quarterback. And obviously it helps if you've got Jackson in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, well done to the Ravens. Their defense looking solid. They shut Derrick Henry down, made it have to land on Ryan Tannehill's shoulders to win the game. And it turned out without the convincing play action with Derrick Henry getting shut down, he can't win the game. So
No, he can't.
Worth that $100 million contract? I'm not sure. He's a good quarterback, but it was on him to win this game, and he came up short. So well done to the Ravens. And yeah, I'm just Titans are out, man. I was rooting for them.
Yeah, I mean they were my team. They were the team I was rooting for, and I was shocked by the performance. Derrick Henry, like you said, just couldn't. No, he was getting pulled out on third downs, which is just insane. Like they just couldn't get anything going, and the passing game suffered. They came out hot in the first quarter. They scored that touchdown. AJ Brown was looking awesome. They looked like that was happening. Then Lamar Jackson threw that awful interception. You thought, oh wow, the route's on. And then it just didn't happen. The Ravens defense clamped down. The Titans ended up not being able to move the ball. They just couldn't get anything going. And the Ravens, they didn't amaze on offense, but they ran the ball well. They made the passes they need to. They scored some touchdowns, and they got the result they needed. But it was an ugly game.
And towards the end of the game, it didn't look like their win was in doubt either.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. It felt more than a 7-point game. It really did. You sort of sat there and you thought the Titans, there's no way. They've just not. They didn't have any answers, and that was shocking to see, because the Titans. I expected their defense to struggle, and actually their defense played well. They kept the Ravens to 20 points. That's actually a really good result by the Titans defense. But the offense just went AWOL, and this was a unit that was scoring 30 points a game, and they just came in flat. And fair play, the Ravens did enough. I think that's what you can take from it. They weren't perfect, but they did enough. On to just the most brutal game of the weekend. I think I can't even look at it directly in the eye. So you go ahead.
Well, Saints Bears.
Yeah.
No, this game I watched like the first 2.5 quarters of this game. I must admit, I'm not particularly passionate about either of these teams. The Saints did their thing. Mitch Trubisky never really looked like he was in the game. There was a point early on where I think there was a missed field goal by the Saints.
Yeah.
And you thought, okay, maybe the Bears are onto something here. But yeah, I don't, unlike the Washington, who really stepped up to being in the playoffs, the Bears, man, just didn't look into it. And they, I guess they held Drew Brees and co to 21 points. But they had Michael Thomas back. He caught his first touchdown in over a year because he's been injured, of course. On his day, one of the most probably arguably the most dominant receiver in the league. Michael Thomas when he's healthy is that good. Alvin Kamara, they just had too much going on. The Bears were never going to win this game, but I did think the Bears might have put up a bit more of a fight. But ultimately, with Mitch Trubisky there, I just he will get you to 8-8 or what their record was, but he will not take you far in the play. I think that's just shows that without a quality quarterback, just like Ryan Tannehill came short for the Titans, it was on Mitch Trubisky to win this game, because of course with Montgomery in the backfield, they've got a fairly good running game. but you need your quarterback there, so
No, and
it's always going to happen.
yeah, I've not got a huge amount to say on this. I'll just say one thing really. I knew when the Bears did that trick play in the end zone and the wide receiver was open, the ball dropped and he just dropped the touchdown, and I was like, well, that's it. The Bears can't win this game. The Bears won't win this game. They're out of ideas already, and it's like the first quarter. I watched to the third quarter, and I was like, I can't do this to myself anymore. Anyway, so I think arguably the game of the week, which was Steelers Browns, which is also the upset I think we all dreamed of, but no one was brave enough to call, because you did not think.
Never in a million years.
No, there was no way the Browns were going to, in everyone's mind, there was no way this was going to happen. And on the first snap, for the snap to be fumbled,
they did
and the Browns to get it.
Super Bowl against the Seahawks, except that it wasn't a safety. It was a bloody defensive touchdown. I mean, come on, jump on the fucking ball.
I know, it was incredible. And you that happened and you're like, oh boy, this could be bad. And it was. I mean, the Browns got up, I think they were up 28 points to 0, and you thought
first quarter, I think.
It was incredible. Big Ben was throwing interceptions like he'd forgotten what team he was on. He had four interceptions.
Exactly. And that's the thing about this. He's only the second player ever to throw for 500 yards and still lose in the playoffs. Of course, Tom Brady losing against the Eagles was the first person to throw for 500 yards and lose. He's number 2. And the thing is, as much as the Browns did run away from it at the beginning, their pass defense was so lacking. They almost let them back into the game through the middle. Although, admittedly, they never came in something like 10, 11 points.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make, actually.
Game. It was always a 2-score game. It was always catch up. They and quality to the Browns, man. This is the first road win they've had since I think it's like the 60s or something like that.
Well, it's the first playoff win since the Browns have been the Browns since they were reconstituted after the Browns left to become the Ravens. Exactly. So it's incredible. It's an incredible result, and you're completely right. They were up 28 points, and you were like, that's not a safe lead. No. And then they got to 35, and the Steelers scored a bit, and you were like, that's not a safe lead either. And they just had to keep scoring because their defense could not stop anyone. But you can't take it away from them. It's a fantastic win. You want to see this. You want to see teams that have been bad actually be competitive and get over the hump and be playoff teams and win playoff games. And I was really happy for this. As long-suffering Minnesota Vikings fans, we know what heartbreak's like. But being a Browns fan is a completely different level.
The Browns and the Bills, man.
Yeah. Well, this was a nice round because it was great to see the Bills win. It was great to see the Browns win. And I even felt good for the Buccaneers because they've had a rough, their fans have had a rough time over the last decade as well. So, overall, I thought this was a really good weekend. I think it was topped off with the best game, which was the Steelers Browns, and it was really good to see. Divisional round, which I think is my favourite round of the playoffs. I like the divisional round. I can't quite put my finger on why, but I think it always has the most interesting games. It's still got 4 games as well. It feels like you're getting a proper sort of week of football. I really like the divisional round. I think there's some interesting games here. So the first game on the Saturday is, I don't know how to feel about this game. It's the Rams versus the Packers, and part of me thinks it's going to be a demolition, and then part of me saw how the Rams defense played this past weekend, and I'm like, maybe it won't be. Am I crazy?
I don't know. And when it's come to Aaron Rodgers being successful in the playoffs, when he's come against a tough defense, he hasn't been good. Remember when they got beaten by the Giants, when the Giants went on to win in 2011, remember when they got beaten, but was it the 49ers maybe? And then also when the Packers played, I think the Rams, when the Rams went to I think there was a divisional or a championship game there where, with solid defenses, Aaron Rodgers has come up wanting. Now, the smart, I think Aaron Rodgers should win this game. Yeah, but we've seen that. I mean, he doesn't have an amazing defense. It's not like the top defense, and
No.
the Rams are so good defensively. And I think what the last round shows is that Jared Goff doesn't have to play well to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can run the ball. I'm not saying I'm going to pick the Rams here, but when we go to pick upset of the week, I'm going to think about it. Although I want Aaron Rodgers to win another Super Bowl, even though I'm a Vikings fan. He's such a good player. I cannot have him being ranked below players like Peyton Manning or anyone like that. I've kind of been ranked below Drew Brees. He deserves to be the best quarterback of all time, pretty much. But the Rams might. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Part of me is thinking Aaron Rodgers is probably the MVP of the league, although I think it's probably Derrick Henry. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers has thrown for 48 touchdowns this season. He's just unbelievable. He's got an amazing connection with his wide receivers. Well, when they're not dropping the ball, Valdez-Scantling seems to drop the ball all the time, but he's got good relationships with wide receivers. Their offense can't be stopped. They've got a solid running game. Oh, it's hard to pick against them because Aaron Rodgers has just looked so good.
Yeah, once again, he's had under 10 touchdowns. I think he's had like under 10 interceptions. I think he's had 4. His connection with, like you said, Devontae Adams.
4. He's had 4. That's almost a 10 to 1.
It's either 4 or 6, and I think it's 5.
Yeah, so that's like a 10 to 1 ratio.
Yeah, which is the best ratio in the league. I
can't even deal with that. I don't even know. And this is why when the Vikings, as long as Aaron Rodgers is around, they're never winning the division ever. Oh my God. Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. That's objectively incredible what he's been doing, and fair play. Fair play to him. So that's a difficult one. My gut feeling is the Packers.
But I'm just saying, if a defense is gonna frustrate Aaron Rodgers, which we've seen him get frustrated in previous games in the playoffs, when he's come against these stiff defenses, I don't know, man.
No, you're right. You're right. He's got form. He has shat it on occasion, and that you can't ignore that.
Redemption. Maybe this is his. Who's the Broncos? Elway. Maybe this is Elway was the man who couldn't get it done. Although obviously Aaron Rodgers won that Super Bowl in his career. But remember, Elway was the one who got went to a couple Super Bowls, lost them. And then it was towards the end of his career when he won those 2.
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe this is kind of Aaron Rodgers' kind of John Elway moment where he wasn't the clutch man before. Great statistically, Packers legend, just like Elway was for the Broncos, but couldn't quite get it. And then towards maybe this is his Elway redemption moment and he wins. I'm probably going to pick the Packers, but
yeah.
I'm scared of that pick. I'm scared of that.
Me too.
I'm scared. Anyway, moving on to the Ravens versus Bills.
Yeah, so this Ravens versus Bills game, I think it's the game that intrigues me most of the weekend, actually, because these are but they're both interesting teams in their own ways. Allen has been awesome for the Bills. He's been one of the best QBs in the league this year. Stephon Diggs has been amazing. They've played really well and they're fun to watch. And the Ravens, they had a little bit of a down bit in the middle of the seasons, but they've gotten hot lately. They've been interesting to watch. Lamar Jackson's always money. I think this could be the most fun game of the weekend. Just from both teams look competitive. They match up interestingly. I think you could see a lot of points. Depends, I think, on how the Ravens defense plays more than anything else.
Definitely. And I think the Ravens have got to take a lot of the Colts' notes in how they were kind of stopping the run for making Josh Allen, frustrating Josh Allen on occasion.
Yeah.
I think the Ravens, like you said, are one of the most fun teams to watch. The way they can they're just exciting with their power run schemes that they've got going.
Yeah, the play
Um,
action, that is
play
run pass option.
action, the back option. Yeah, exactly. They're going to be fun to watch. And Jim Harbaugh, I think, is as since moving on from Joe Flacco, has really created this like really exciting team with
Yeah.
stiff defense. But
the Bills could light it up. The Bills could light it up. I think that's the thing.
I want the Bills. It's the Bills' time. I'm going with the Bills on this one, even though it is pretty bleeding neck and neck, and I feel like this game might embarrass me with my pick. I'm rooting for the Bills. I want the Bills to go to the Super Bowl. I'm picking the Bills.
I'm going to hold off on making a decision on that one for a minute, but I think this could be a really interesting game, and I think it's the game I'm the most excited about to see because it's a toss-up. So we'll put a pin in that. I'm going to come back to that one. So then on Sunday, this one's interesting mainly because obviously it's awesome to see the Browns making it through to the divisional round. That's really exciting. But they're against the Chiefs, and that is basically you've made it through the minefield, and now you're going to have to try and defuse an atom bomb with like a screwdriver, because the Chiefs, they're not a fancy team. Their defense is meh, but they have
Mahomes.
Yeah, they've got Patrick Mahomes, and their entire offense is essentially Patrick Mahomes going out there and being like, all right, it's 3rd and 20. That's fine because I'm going to throw a 50-yard touchdown. That is literally their offense, and it's awesome to watch, and it makes no sense on any logical level.
It's like playing Madden, isn't
it?
No,
they statistically and logically and just football sense-wise, you do not expect the Chiefs to be able to pull off what they pull off every week, and they do, and it's incredible. Kelsey's amazing, Hill's amazing, it's just ridiculous. Watkins is good, Nicole Hardman's good, they've got bags of talent at wide receiver. They've got good running backs with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I think they've got Le'Veon Bell as well as a backup, which is just ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
So
they've got options.
They're stacked. They're stacked on offense, and their defense is good enough. And they're 14-2 for a reason, and they're the best team in the league for a reason. This year
they got the bye. For a reason.
Yeah, exactly. They're very good, and I think the Browns have had their crazy game now, because I remember saying last week the Browns will have to play perfectly to win against the Steelers. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of luck, so they didn't have to play perfectly because the Steelers basically just shat their pants and fell apart. Mm-hmm. Same goes this time around. The Browns are going to have to play perfect.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you, and 100% agree with you. However, the Chiefs now, not under Patrick Mahomes, but the Chiefs, previously they were always that hot team going into the playoffs. So you remember they lost when they were up by like 28 points. Andrew Luck
against the Colts, yeah.
And my bold prediction of the week is the Browns are going to fucking win this game. Okay, the Chiefs have had the bye. They've not, they've had a week off. They haven't had that time to be in rhythm. The Browns are coming in hot. They've got Kareem Hunt. They've got Nick Chubb running the ball. They're going to control the clock. They're going to make everything come down to Patrick Mahomes, and if he can do the spectacular, which I know I might be embarrassed on this one. I think the Browns are running hot because they've just won this, this huge game against the Steelers. This is the first for their franchise, and I think they will have the upset of the year. But I'm expecting to be embarrassed on this one. But I'm just saying, everyone expects the Chiefs to destroy this. Yeah. Remember, they're in Arrowhead. There aren't as many fans. It isn't. Crowd noise won't be as mad of a thing. There's never been a better time for a team to go to Arrowhead in the playoffs and try and get something. So my bold prediction is the Browns are going to win, but I'm fully expecting to be embarrassed in that one. But I'm going with it. Screw it, man. I'm on the bandwagon.
I respect it. I'd love to see it. It would be great to see. It really would. I think I think that's unlikely, but if it does happen, I would lose my mind.
Mm.
I don't think I can go there with you. I just think even though the Browns' run game with Chubb and Kareem Hunt is so good, and they've got good wide receivers with
Good
with
offensive line.
Landry, good offensive line. I just don't know if Baker Mayfield can keep up with
That's
Patrick
the thing.
Mahomes.
It is going to be down to him. And
Yeah.
yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. Well, no, it could happen. There is a world where it can happen.
That's my
And,
bold prediction. Even if it
yeah.
doesn't come true, that's my bold
Uh,
prediction right there.
I respect it, and I'm looking forward to this game
I'm going to
almost
play
as
this game.
much. Yeah.
This game is going to be this game is going to be fun and drama no matter what. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward.
It's going to be good. I'm almost looking forward to it as much as the Ravens Bills game. The Ravens Bills game speaks to me a little bit more, but I am looking forward to seeing this. And oh, dare to dream, dare to dream.
There's
Anyway, the last game of the divisional round is Tom Brady's Buccaneers versus Drew Brees' Saints. So that I don't know how to feel about this game. It's kind of the meh game
it's
of
it's the one
for
I'm
me.
least excited about with two over 40-year-old.
Yeah,
I think they're both over 40.
yeah,
Quarterbacks at the end
it's
of
the
their career. This is
geriatric bowl. It's the pensioner bowl. It's ridiculous. It's like Jesus, guys, just retire. And to be fair, they're still playing very well for that. But I just can't get excited about Drew Brees versus you know Tom Brady. It doesn't interest me. I've seen these. You look at these other matchups. You got Patrick Mahomes versus versus Baker Mayfield. You've got Allen versus Jackson. That's exciting. I want to see those matchups. I even kind of want to see Aaron Rodgers. I don't so much want to see Jared Goff. I'm not so excited to see Jared Goff, but the other three games, there are quarterbacks I want to see play. I don't really care about either of these quarterbacks. They don't interest me. Their play style doesn't interest me. I think the main person I'm interested in watching is Mike Evans, and Alvin Kamara on the Saints. So I don't know.
Yeah. Once again, this game, I don't. It doesn't like inspire. Like it's the game I probably as huge as it is going to be built up by the media, by people being Drew Brees versus Tom Brady, both at the end of their career, both
Oh,
looking at that last blaze of glory.
they're never going to shut up about it. That's the thing. Like you just get bombarded with it all week, and you're just like, oh, just leave me alone. I understand. They're both very good. Let's just
Mm.
play the game. For God's
And,
sake.
and the Saints have been so unlucky in the playoffs, man. That
Yeah.
the last couple of years, I think the Saints I think the Saints win this game. I think they got enough. They got Michael Thomas back. I think they've got enough to win this game. So I'm going to go with the Saints. I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers just because I think Tom Brady is gonna find it in him,
Yeah,
and I
fourth
think
quarter drive is going to.
yeah, and even though the Saints I think have won both games during the regular season, I feel like the Saints are vulnerable. They seem to have these moments in the playoffs, and again, I'd like to see the Buccaneer franchise
Do well.
do well. I really don't like the Saints. This is purely on an emotional level. It's probably not logical, but I'd like to see the Buccaneers win. But that's not going to be my upset of the week. I think I am going to have to go with the Rams beating the Packers. I think that's my call of the week for upset. It feels insane to go. I went against Tom Brady last week, and now I'm going against Aaron Rodgers. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Uh, I'm not gonna be right on this, just like I wasn't right last week. But I'm gonna do it because I think I want to see it happen. I want the Packers to
Mm,
get knocked out. They're division rivals of the Vikings, and
exactly.
I no, that's my call, and I'm not going to think about it too much. But I also think the Buccaneers will beat the Saints. I think it's going to happen. I think the Buccaneers' run game can be very good on
Mm,
this day. I think they've got a
Fournette.
crazy stack of wide receivers. It's just ridiculous their wide receiver
They've
core.
got on paper the best wide receiving core
Yeah,
in
in
the
the
league.
in the league, and their defense is pretty good. It's had some really good moments and it's had some really bad moments, but more often than not, it has been good. It's been quality overall. So Can it stop the Saints? Maybe not, but can it slow them down? And can the Buccaneers score enough points to beat them? I think so. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers come out of this with a win, even though it is at the Saints at home. So we'll see.
Where do you stand on the Ravens-Bills game on that one?
Yeah. So I'm going to have to go with the Bills. I think I think they had a fright last week. I think last week's going to sort of slap them awake again. They're going to say, no, we need to refocus. We're a good team. We're 13-3 for fuck's sake. You know, they are a good team. They deserve to be moving on to the next round. And I just don't think the Ravens have the juice.
And then I'm guessing Chiefs against the Browns for you.
Yeah, Chiefs against the Browns for me.
It's the smart thing. It's the smart call.
It is a smart call. Although, like, I'm probably going to end up being wrong on all of these because I'm terrible at my takes, but that's why people watch us. Said no one ever. So that's us for the week. You know, again, we're still sort of working this out. We're obviously going to find our tone. We're going to find our style. We're going to get better cameras maybe eventually. I don't know. We'll see if we even want to invest any money in this thing. You know, right now we're on shitty internet in lockdown, you know, on Skype with a PowerPoint slideshow. So, you know, we're still working out what this is, but we enjoy it. It gives us something to do and focus on and fill up some time. So, you know, we'll
gonna go from here.
Maybe people can get some enjoyment out of it. You know, we'd like to have some guests on at some point as well down the line. Obviously, we're going to be doing some more in-depth videos on other stuff when we get a chance. But yeah, no, you know, anyone who does watch, we appreciate you watching, and obviously, you know, feel free to comment and say you guys are idiots. That's fine. We'll take it.
Feel free to disagree. You know,
we can take the abuse. It's fine. Although I will fight you about Keir Starmer. I will shirts off, pistols at midnight. Let's do this shit.